The following is a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys. The Siniard Law Show, answering your legal questions, featuring attorneys Tommy Siniard, Bart Siniard, and your host, Aaron Dacey. This is the Siniard Law Show.
Hello and welcome to the Siniard Law Show, where we invite your legal questions and educate you on various areas of the law. Siniard Law is a father-son personal injury firm right here in the Tennessee Valley. They're focused on giving back to the community through legal education. Siniard Law has again received recognition as a Tier 1 personal injury litigation firm by Best Lawyers in America. Tonight, we are discussing a timely topic with summer parties, what you need to know about liability. Father and son, Tommy and Bart Siniard, are here to discuss this topic and answer your questions. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Aaron, good to see you.
Great to see you. Very timely.
Yeah, it is. We've got summers upon us here, and with that comes a lot of potential legal issues people may be facing, and we're going to jump into that this evening.
All right, sounds great. If you have questions on this topic or any other legal topic, just email us at questions@siniardlaw.com or call us at 844-7000-LAW, and your question may be featured. Now to our legal tip of the week, summer parties. It is a time of celebration, but it's also a time for hosts to beware of possible legal liability. You want to have parties in your home over the summer, maybe 4th of July, but that can be scary, especially if there's alcohol involved.
Yeah, there is a statute called the open house party law, and particularly with underage people, minors, a supervisor or homeowner, whatever, cannot be cognizant that minors are there consuming alcohol. If they are, and those minors get in an accident and hurt themselves or particularly others, there's some liability there. A more interesting question is what happens when it's not minors? Mm-hmm. What is the host's responsibility, if any, to adults that are being served alcohol? And we'll go into that. Bart?
Yeah, so like when it's a bar or a nightclub or a restaurant, those entities have responsibilities to the public to make sure that they don't serve alcohol to somebody who's what's called visibly intoxicated. And what that means, that's a vague definition, but there can be witnesses or video footage or a very long bar tab. We've seen
credit card.
Yeah, we've seen various evidence of that. But if you're not a bar owner or a nightclub owner, and you're just having a party over at your house and having people over, and as long as those people aren't minors, they're of age, able to legally drink alcohol, you actually really have no liability if somebody gets hurt or killed at that party as a result of the drinking. So there's no what's called social host liability in Alabama.
In some states there are, but not in Alabama.
Yeah, some states there may be. Alabama, there's not. So if you're having a party with friends and y'all are all 21 or older, you really don't need to have any concern about that in particular. If there's minors there, people under the age of 21 or younger, that you think might be there or will be there, well, that changes the game. And if they're there, you have reason to know that people under the age of 21 are there drinking, then the law imposes responsibilities on you to take reasonable measures to ensure that those minors are not drinking alcohol. And if you don't, and one of those minors gets in a car and crosses the center line and hurts somebody, or they hurt themselves, then you can both be criminally liable and civilly liable. And on the criminal side, it's a misdemeanor, which means you can face up to a year in jail for that, and a fine, that could be in the $1,000 range. On the civil side, you can be held liable if the victim of whoever's hurt can bring a claim against you for personal injury or wrongful death, depending on what happened.
Even though they were drinking.
Yeah. If they're minors, if it's, say a 16-year-old's at your house and there's a cooler of beer there and there's 16-year-olds there, say you got.
That's whether you provide the alcohol or whether they brought it.
Yeah, if they could bring it on there. Now, you're not liable if you had no clue, but if you did, if a personal injury lawyer can prove you did know or you
had reasonable suspicion.
Yeah. Then it's a problem for you, both potentially criminally and in the civil court system. So if you're having people over, particularly, people have been, graduating high school recently, if you're having teenagers over to your house, you got to take steps to make sure they're not drinking. The law puts the burden on you to go out there and look and kind of monitor things. And if you see alcohol, you got to take reasonable measures to make it stop. You call their parents. You need to make sure they put down the alcohol. So that's something you got to be concerned about, but it's only when the people are on your property are not legally able to drink alcohol.
That brings on this discussion. People, too many numbers of people go without adequate car insurance or homeowners coverage. Your homeowners coverage you for your negligence, really inside the home or outside the home. So typically your liability limits, if you're wrong, is twice the amount of the value of your house, roughly. So let's say you have a $150,000 house, the most they'll pay is $300,000. Well, if you've let a minor drink on your premises and he causes an accident that causes a wrongful death or two, you're grossly underinsured, because that would be the first party called on to step up to your liability is your insurance. Mm-hmm. So not just in this situation where minors are consuming alcohol on your premises, but in any situation, you can buy an umbrella both for your car liability and your home liability for de minimis amounts of money compared to the coverage amounts. Same way with people who drive around with minimum limits and they have assets and they have a job. You would like to think that, oh, well, my insurance will cover it. Well, it'll cover up to the limits, which in Alabama, you only have to have $25,000 worth of coverage. That'll pay for a broken finger. So I advise everybody to look into your limits. The more assets you have, the more you are financially exposed to your own personal assets if you're negligent in a car or supervising a party in which teens have had alcohol.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing about homeowners insurance that people don't realize. Most people think about homeowners insurance as something you got to have in case something bad happens to your house. Have the tornado hit or the pipe leaks or whatever. And that is, one of the big purposes of homeowners insurance, obviously. But homeowners insurance also protects you if somebody alleges you did something wrong and caused them to be hurt. And it's called liability insurance. Most people have heard of liability insurance because you have it on your vehicle, but you also have it under your homeowner's insurance. And homeowner's liability insurance protects you if you allegedly wrongfully hurt somebody not using a car. So if you're going to look at your homeowner's insurance policy, I always tell people there's 2 great times a year to do it. Number 1 is in March before tornado season really gets upon us. Mm-hmm. And then 2 is right now, late May into June, if you're having people over, parties, or even if you're not doing things at your house, you're going off your property and just doing things that might hurt somebody.
Right.
Fishing, hunting, hiking, whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Well, let's get to this email from one of our viewers. It's Jennifer, and she says, my family is planning to host a graduation party for my daughter, and we're expecting a fairly large group of her friends and some extended family. I'm concerned about what kind of legal responsibility we might have as hosts, especially when it comes to underage guests. You guys touched on that just a little bit. We do not plan to serve alcohol to minors, but I'm worried about situations where guests might bring their own. And Tommy, you addressed that. Would we still be held liable if something were to happen? Also, are there specific precautions you recommend to help protect ourselves if someone were injured on our property? Lastly, does homeowners insurance typically cover incidents like this, or should we be looking at additional coverage for the event. I would appreciate any guidance you can provide so we can celebrate safely and responsibly. Thank you, Jennifer. You touched on that. Yeah, the umbrella policy and.
So, you know, if she wants to be really careful, first off, if something bad happens and somebody makes a claim against them, your homeowner's insurance coverage will cover you. They may deny the other person's claim, but if you get sued, what homeowner's insurance does, just like car insurance, is it pays up to your limits if they think the case is worth settling or if there's a verdict against you. The other thing is your homeowner's insurance pays for a defense lawyer, so you wouldn't have to come out of pocket to pay for a lawyer.
Cost of defense is entirely covered by the homeowners.
So, you know, she needs to rest easy knowing that, at least. If you want to be really careful, you know you got teenagers coming on the property, you may want to try to create some proof that you did what you should have done to make sure there's no alcohol. You know, even if it's just a handwritten note to yourself, something in writing, you know, this is what I did. I mean, that may be going over the top a little bit.
I mean, how long does that take? That's just not that big of a deal, and if it could help you.
Just, you know, that I had a discussion with all the kids there, that no alcohol was allowed. You know, you sign it and date it and stick it in a drawer, you know.
Right.
But, you know, lawyers and insurance companies, we deal in proof, you know. And we always want to try to avoid the he said, she said situation if possible. And a lot of cases do involve that. There's just he said, she said type circumstances. But if you can have some kind of proof, something in writing, maybe not applicable in this case, but, you know, photographs, video, whatever it is, you got to sometimes step back and think like a lawyer. You know, what evidence is there?
We had 6 boys that grew up in our house, so it was social place central. And so what I would do as they got to be 16, and at this age where they're drinking but not of age by 5 years, is I took up car keys. You know,
that's a good idea.
Because there was no way to police a half a dozen boys and all their friends who might have it in their car, who might have it in a backpack. Yeah. So the closest I could do is take the keys and I'd take a picture or a little video of, look, here's what the lengths I went to prevent minors from consuming alcohol on my premises. Yeah. And I bought.
Sorry, I did that to you.
I bought a big umbrella. You know,
umbrella policy.
The other thing in summer that, and people are going to hate lawyers for this, but one thing that's worried me, and I've had cases involving swimming pool liability. Mm-hmm. The 2 most hazardous and worrisome things outdoors are trampolines and swimming pools. Now, the one case I had was actually a babysitter who was of age, who was paid to babysit a 3-year-old little boy, and the babysitter took the child at her home, and her parents had a house with a swimming pool, and she wasn't watching the 3-year-old who was ambulatory, and she was on her cell phone or talking to her boyfriend, and the child made it outdoors in the swimming pool, and the rest is a horror story. Well, the parents' homeowners insurance, and they had an umbrella, covered that liability, and there was $500,000 in coverage, and we got it all. And you know, the other thing is the trampolines. That is worrisome when there's such a thing as negligent supervision of a minor. And let's suppose that you have 8 and 9-year-olds out there and you're not supervising, and there's 6 that start jumping at the same time, or 4. We've had one of these, and the spring bounces one of them off, and terrible injury. Covered by your homeowners. Hope that your liability coverage is adequate, but you have the responsibility of overseeing or supervising any dangerous activities that minors may go into. this thing that I had a crazy case in Southeast Huntsville where the kid's shooting a bow and arrow up in the air. And, you know, what goes up must come down, and most of them were landing in the yard, but one landed on the neighbor's collarbone. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sadly or gladly, there was a significant recovery for that paid by homeowners. So the homeowners is instrumental. The craziest homeowners case is I had a lady who was at a VFW club. A guy she didn't know came up and started dancing with her, swinging her around. He was drunk. She fell off the dance floor, broke her left hip and her left collarbone, covered by his homeowners. So your homeowners coverage for the summer months when you're partying, trampolining, pooling, dancing, something you need to look at.
All right. Thank you very much. When the Siniard Law Show returns, we'll get to more of your legal questions, and we'll tell you how you can sign up for the Siniard Law Firm's free monthly newsletter.
Did you know you can watch 48 News live on your TV whenever you want? Totally free, no subscriptions. Just search WAFF 48 on your Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV. Get live, local news, first alert weather, and sports anytime you want it. Install and stream 48 Plus today. It's easy to watch, easy to install, and it's free. This is 48 Plus. It's your news on your schedule. Search WAFF 48 and start streaming today.
Harrison Brothers brings together the best of North Alabama. Our curated selection of local art, fine crafts, and gourmet food are great gifts for everyone on your shopping list. We carry books by local authors, and our toys pique a child's imagination. At Harrison Brothers, your purchases support artists and artisans right here in the Tennessee Valley. Located on Huntsville's Courthouse Square since 1897, Harrison Brothers is more than a store. It's a tradition.
North Alabama's best attraction is not its mountains, or its rivers, or even its rockets. It's our people, honest, hardworking people who make us proud to do what we do. When people in our communities are injured in an accident,
We help them find insurance companies based in big cities far from here.
we are honored to help people get the compensation they deserve.
Siniard Law, nationally recognized, locally trusted.
Welcome back to the Siniard Law Show. If you would like to sign up for Siniard Law's newsletter, which provides free monthly legal tips, scan the QR code, or be sure to sign up at siniardlaw.com. Now let's get back to you, our viewers, and your questions. Here's an email from Jake. He says, I had a quick question after something that happened at a graduation party that we hosted recently for our daughter. We own a pool and a bunch of kids were hanging out around it. One of the guests was messing around and ended up pushing my daughter's friend into the pool. When he fell in, he hit his head on the side and had to get stitches. We're trying to figure out how something like that works legally. Would it be on the homeowner since it happened at our house, or on the person who pushed him, or maybe both? Just wasn't sure how liability works in a situation like this, so any insight would be really helpful. Thanks, Jake.
I don't think Jake has anything to be concerned about on his end.
The homeowner.
Yeah, the homeowner, the Jake's the guy who sent in the email. I mean, if you're having people over and people are just horsing around and do something stupid and somebody gets hurt, that's not on you. You're only responsible, and your insurance is only responsible if you do something negligent. In other words, that you did something unreasonable that you knew or should have known might cause harm to somebody. People horsing around, even if they're teenagers at your house, you're not going to be held liable for that. The person who is injured in this situation, they might consider bringing a claim against the person who pushed them into the pool. Like Dad was talking about before we went to break, that person's homeowner's coverage may apply to a claim. Which is important to know. Like we said, homeowner's coverage covers you even if it's not something related to your home. If you do something stupid and hurt somebody, even if you're at somebody else's house or you're out on the lake or whatever.
Or a public establishment, a bar.
Yeah, it covers you. So, I don't know whether that could be a successful theory in this case, because if young people are, just messing around, there'd be a pretty strong defense to that. It's called assumption of the risk. If you're messing around and you join in the fun and basically assume the risk of getting hurt, you can't win a claim in Alabama and in most states. If you know something's dangerous and you jump into it, you're probably not going to win that claim. So, to Jake, I wouldn't have much worry about this. If for whatever reason they do try to make a claim against you, just report it to your homeowner's insurance.
Okay. All right. What about drinking and driving? We've got 4th of July holiday, lots of people, out and about, just summertime parties and whatever. What happens if we or someone we love is hit by a drunk driver?
Well, the first thing is seek treatment. If you're legitimately injured, it's amazing to me the number of people that go home and eat the bare aspirin, But it's important to understand that with a drinking or drunk driver, their liability escalates well beyond what would be a normal injury case. We look at a factor of 10. So if a person hits you that was sober and ran the red light or didn't stop at a stop sign, the case may be worth X. If it was a drunk driver, it'd be maybe worth as much as 10X. So the same risk applies if you're drinking and driving yourself, and did you have enough coverage? Again, the question of adequacy of coverage applies because of the multiple 10 times responsibility if you're consuming alcohol or drunk when you hit somebody. Or it can be drugs, it can be any kind of drugs.
Driving under the influence.
Driving under the influence.
And one of the things that happens if you're hit by a drunk driver, you have a family member who's killed by a drunk driver. I'm handling, unfortunately, 3 of those cases right now, all involving deaths. There's 2 legal matters usually running concurrently. One is a criminal case against the drunk driver, and the second is a civil case for personal injury or wrongful death. In Alabama and in all states, if you are drunk and you kill somebody or seriously injure them, you are looking at felony. You are looking at real jail time. I actually just took the deposition of a guy who pled guilty to vehicular assault. He's serving 2 years mandatory down in a prison in South Alabama, Kilby Correctional Facility. He's going to get out in July, but this wreck was in July of 2024. So before you get behind the wheel, and
you're risking your freedom.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not just like it's not a simple
DUI.
And so in the homicide category, there is murder, manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, and then a special statute for vehicular homicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be most of the time is consuming alcohol or drugs and causing a death, but it can be just excessive speeding, reckless conduct. I had a case where somebody was driving over 100 miles an hour and rear-ended an elderly lady who was stopped at a red light, and that person was charged and convicted of vehicular homicide. It carries up to 5 years. It's lower than the other homicides, but still, most of that time you have to serve. The good time law does not apply to vehicular homicide.
So no matter what, you're going to serve the 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So like for murder, you'll be up for parole in 8, and that could be a life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
But for vehicular homicide, you won't be up for parole for the whole 5 years.
Yeah.
It's good we know the consequences ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, more people need to think about that because most people think, I've had 4 beers, I can probably sneak home. And if you don't, and you run a red light or whatever, and even if you don't kill them, if you hurt them, that's not just DUI. They can, the DA's office does have discretion to charge you also with vehicular assault, which is an additional felony. So, Uber's here for a reason.
Yeah.
Call a friend, whatever, if you don't have Uber in your
Or take
town.
up the keys, like
Yeah.
you said.
Well, yeah, and,
Stay
and
at
you know,
somebody's
now
house.
on Amazon or TikTok, you can buy a breathalyzer
Yeah.
for $31, and it will give you a very good indication whether your blood alcohol is over a 0.08.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And then there is the aggravated intoxication, which is a 0.16.
yeah,
Double drunk.
that'll do it. That carries stiffer criminal penalties. And, and if you're a victim of drunk driving, and the reason why we say it's worth more money if you're injured by a drunk driver is because all of a sudden you are likely entitled to punitive damages.
The injured party or killed.
Yeah, the injured person. So that's always something we as personal injury lawyers are trying to recover for our clients. There's two categories of damages. There's what's called compensatory damages and punitive damages. Compensatory damages is money you can seek to compensate you for things you've lost, such as medical costs, loss of income, pain, mental anguish, things of that nature. But if the at-fault driver's actions involve drinking, then it opens up the door for you to collect more than compensatory damages. You can seek punitive damages, and that is an additional pot of money that you can claim that is supposed to act to deter the defendant from committing similar acts in the future and to punish them. That's why it's called punitive damages. It's derived from the word punish. It's a multiplying factor as a personal injury lawyer when a drunk driver has hurt my client versus somebody who just, accidentally rear-ended somebody.
And it's not as much, but there's a multiplier for distracted driving, who is not guilty of looking at a cell phone. But, if you do see any of the programs on how long you have to be distracted to cross the center line, it's nothing. And, it's something that is a multiplier of the value of a case because it's against the law to do, isn't it?
Yeah. I always tell people, if you're going 70 miles an hour, which is the speed limit on the interstate, you traverse more than a football field's length in less than 3 seconds. Less than 3 seconds on the interstate,
Think of the
you got
center
more than a
line.
football field.
Center line's a foot.
Yeah, even closer.
Yeah.
Cars going back and forth.
Oh, we just got to be so careful over the summer. Thank you both very much, Bart and Tommy Siniard, father and son, with all this information about premises liability, specifically parties and incidents or accidents that can happen more often over the summer. We look forward to hearing from you, our viewers, with your questions about any legal topic. You can email us at questions@siniardlaw.com or call our voicemail at 844-7000-LAW. Join us next Sunday night after the late news. Good night.
The preceding was a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys.